Watching movies, jamming out. K-Flix 198.4 Fiction Radio.
Welcome back to K-Flix Fiction Radio. We're back to regularly scheduled programming after last week's mixtape, but rest assured, we have a volcanic show planned today.
Volcanic because the band, one of the bands we're talking about is none other than Vesuvius.
Right, yes. And also the band A.D.D.
That's right. We were talking about the movie The Rocker. Starring Rainn Wilson, featuring just about everyone who was famous in comedy in 2008.
That's pretty much true, yeah.
Quick backstory. This is the story of a guy named Robert Fishman, who was the drummer for a band called Vesuvius, but was sort of unceremoniously kicked out right before they got their big break because some record exec wanted his nephew to play drums for them instead. So he moves on, has a normal life, hates his job, etc., etc. And where we come in the movie, he gets a second chance playing drums for his nephew's high school band.
Yes, A.D.D.
A.D.D. Yeah, the aforementioned.
Not
A.D.D.
AD.
That's a dumb name.
Right, yes.
Shawn, what did you think of this movie? I'd never seen it before, despite it having been out for a long, long time.
I also completely missed it when it came out. I mean, I remember it being released, but I did not see it myself until prep for this very show. The beginning of the movie made me feel like I was in for a different film because it was very silly and wacky, and Rainn Wilson's character Fish almost has these superhuman abilities, and
yeah,
it starts off very cartoony, and I genuinely got excited for the movie because of the way that it starts with these really outlandish things happening. But then after that, it's pretty flat in terms of that style of comedy. It's no longer there after that opening sequence.
Yeah, I would say flat is accurate. It's, I wanted to like it. I wanted to like it more. It's sort of like checked all the right boxes on paper. I think a lot of what they were going for in this movie was very of the 2008 time. Like they were doing the Judd Apatow thing. There are quite a few scenes in this film where I feel like they let the actors improv, but like it wasn't well guided enough, and it just kind of plays out flat and like, oh wow, that was a really long take.
I mean, I can see that. At the same time, there are still jokes throughout the movie that did land for me, and I did enjoy them. When Vesuvius comes back in later on in the movie and they have English accents, I enjoyed that as a bit.
Yeah, I don't want to come out the gates and say I hated this movie or anything, but I don't know that I laughed out loud at any point. I did watch it alone, but I don't know that I laughed out loud on this one. They were trying for a lot of stuff, but the story, ultimately the story was pretty predictable.
I do want to ask you a particular question about the movie. Did you think that Rainn Wilson looked a lot like Lars from Metallica throughout the film?
Oh, no, that didn't occur to me once.
Like anytime he got really sweaty while playing the drums, I was like, man, he really looks like Lars.
I mean, totally. They totally could have been thinking about that. I did not have that thought at all. My issue, honestly, with the character was it felt a lot like Dwight from The Office. It felt like Rainn Wilson once again playing like a sort of eternally frustrated character.
I can understand it from that aspect. I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of The Office, so I don't have a huge frame of reference, but I didn't necessarily see a whole lot of overlap between the two characters in the things that they were doing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure. No, that totally makes sense. I think part of it's just that unfortunate typecasting thing that I'm sure he's had to deal with for his whole career, and I'm playing into it by being like, I can't see him as anything but Dwight.
Might I suggest you watching the independent James Gunn movie Super?
Oh yeah, that's one I wanted to check out forever. By the way, it is really crazy how many cameos, and not just cameos, guest stars and stuff there are in this. Shawn, did you realize this movie has cast members? It's the only movie I can think of that has cast members from The Office, Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, Arrested Development, and Party Down, which were pretty much the five hugest things, definitely the five things that I was paying the most attention to in, 2008.
That's a totally fair point. I don't think I realized the coverage that was spanned here, you know?
I mean, some of them, you have a couple. 30 Rock had Jane Krakowski and Lonnie Ross as the replacement drummer in Vesuvius. Party Down, I squeaked in there just because of Jane Lynch. Parks and Rec as well. You get Aziz Ansari. But technically, all of those shows are represented. And then you get Fred Armisen, who was probably... Has he been in all of those shows?
It's interesting because all I can think of right now is him on Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Melipnos. That's all my brain wants to come up with because I love that character so much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the time to do the math on Fred Armisen appearances, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had been in all of those shows. That guy pops up in absolutely everything. Oh, and while we're talking about guest appearances, the one I was not expecting at all, and actually, I take back what I said about not laughing out loud, because I did laugh out loud at Dimitri Martin as the music video director. I thought that bit was hilarious.
Yeah, that scene is really funny.
Either blink like normal people or don't blink. Those are your options.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's totally like what music videos were like around then. Like I remember that White Stripes one where it's like stop motion and the drums like keep repeating in the street.
Oh, yeah. Back to The Rocker and Robert Fishman. Apparently, this movie is like loosely based on Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles.
Sure, yeah.
He makes a cameo in this movie. Did you notice that?
He does, yeah.
He's reading the Rolling Stone magazine after Fish loses his job for fighting Aziz Ansari for his love of Vesuvius.
I would love to say I picked out Pete Best while watching it, but I saw his name in the credits and then went back and looked for it.
Yeah, exactly. I also did not notice that right off.
I mean, he's Pete Best. Nobody knows what he looks like. That's the story. I think it's also a little bit based on the story of the guy who wrote most of the songs for this, a guy named Chad Fisher.
Oh, okay.
He was in a band in the early 90s called School of Fish. So first of all, his name's Fisher, not Fishman, but close. He was in School of Fish and he was the drummer, and he was replaced. Although it was a little different. He was replaced in the studio. He stayed with the band to play live. In the studio, he was replaced by Josh Freese, who's kind of like the most legendary studio drummer. He's played with just about every rock and roll band from punk to metal and everything in between. Like,
at least that's an easier sell than the record exec's nephew wants to be the drummer in the band.
Yeah, I mean, even back then, he was pretty well known as like one of the guys to bring in the studio. I mean, pre-Travis Barker, like he had that title. It was just like not as mainstream, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
I did look up this band, School of Fish, because I didn't like recognize the name at all when I heard it, but I do kind of remember this song. I'm wondering if you do.
I mean, this guitar riff sounds familiar, but that could just be the time in which it came out.
Sure.
'Cause a lot of things sounded like that.
A lot of things sounded like this.
Was this in a movie soundtrack?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Was this in something like Disturbing Behavior or like The Faculty or Urban Legend or something like that?
Oh man, it sounds like it could be in any of those. The band definitely reminds me of like, it's got like that Flaming Lips sort of early 90s Flaming Lips sound.
Okay.
Before they took their like career defining left turn. Sort of like 90s alternative that wasn't quite grunge. That wasn't from Seattle, I should say. Yeah, School of Fish. I have to wonder if it was, partly his namesake, again, with his name being Chad Fisher.
Sure.
I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that pops up in the movie where I'm like, oh, I wonder if they just got this from this guy's story and talking to him.
It's also interesting because the drummer of the band Fish, his name is John Fishman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I don't know much about Fish. Wait, how's it spelled? With an F or with a PH?
No. Same way, with an F.
Oh, okay.
Fish.
Okay.
John Fishman co-founded Fish, and the name of the band is sort of a reference to him, from my understanding. I also don't know much about Fish.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I did discover the similarities in the name, and I thought to put that in my notes.
Wow, there's a wide, confusing world of drummers with the name Fish. Potentially. We don't have hard evidence that anyone ever called Chad Fisher Fish, but I just have to guess that plays into it.
But there is something that the folks would know Chad Fisher from.
Oh, yeah, you bet there is.
But I can't do this all on my own.
Superman.
That's right, the Scrubs theme song.
The Scrubs theme song by a band called Laszlo Bane, which is fronted by none other than Chad Fisher, co-songwriter at least of almost every song on this soundtrack.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Laszlo Bane, I knew they were a band. When I was watching Scrubs, I knew that this was a real band. I knew that Zach Braff was painstaking about his picking of real indie rock bands for his shows and stuff. And actually, Chad Fisher also scored Garden State.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. He had a bit of a fruitful relationship with Zach Braff.
Zach Braff directed the music video for that song, Superman.
So it's a real song. I think it was years into Scrubs that I realized it was a real song and not just a bit of theme music.
I had that same realization for Last Week Tonight during the pandemic.
I was just thinking about Last Week Tonight. Yeah, same, totally, like even the same kind of super smooth, catchy power pop bop. It's really weird with both of those songs hearing the like parts of it that you don't hear on TV repeatedly. Like when it doesn't cut off and it goes into a verse, you're like, oh wow.
Now, this guy, Chad Fisher, he's basically a one-man band on the soundtrack for The Rocker. Dude plays guitar, bass, drum, keyboards, glockenspiel, and does additional vocals.
Knowing that he has some experience in the film scoring world, it makes sense. Like you kind of have to be able to do it all, or at least command the group that will do it all in the case of like a more traditional composer. Mm-hmm. Honestly, most of this music is this one dude.
Pretty impressive.
Joined on a few tracks by various other folks. All the members of Laszlo Bane, I think, show up on different tracks at some point. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, all the vocals for A.D.D. are provided by Teddy Geiger, who plays Curtis Powell, the lead singer of A.D.D.
Now, I guess we should get into the members of the band. These are not the actual musicians outside of Teddy Geiger, of course.
Sure. Yeah, the in-universe.
Exactly. Josh Gad did not play keyboards for the soundtrack.
No. I was going to say as far as we know, but we actually do know that he did not.
Right. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Josh Gad is... Wow, I'm just seeing their full names because the full names don't really come up in the movie, but I just realized that his character's name is Matt Gadman. If Josh Gad played Matt Gadman, then Fishman is definitely based on Chad
Fisher, for sure.
Yeah, Josh Gad is Matt Gadman, the keyboardist and nephew of Robert Fishman. And then we've got...
Emma Stone on bass. And she did learn to play the bass for this movie, though she is not featured on any of the recordings.
Okay, that makes sense. But, that's part of it. We learned that with Michael J. Fox. Like, learning to mimic it is important.
Yeah, she said that she had a bass coach on set.
I mean, it shows. Like, I would say everybody in this looks like they're playing what they should be playing at any given moment.
Oh, totally.
I caught a couple of places where they maybe should have cut to a wide on the drum close-up. He did fine. Emma Stone, by the way, as Amelia Stone.
Uh-huh.
Sticking with basically the real last names. And then Teddy Geiger as Curtis Powell. So no reference there to her actual name. So Teddy Geiger, since this movie has come out as trans and identifies as a woman, so we're going to say she.
Yes.
But just to avoid any confusion there, does play a male character in this film.
And since we are talking about Teddy right now, before The Rocker, she was already gaining a pretty good amount of fame with a song called For You I Will. I had not heard this song. I was not super familiar with it before, but perhaps you might know it, Dustin.
Tonight I'm not afraid to tell you what I feel about you. Every ounce of confidence I have, a cannonball into the water. Gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you, I will.
Had you heard that before, Dustin?
I was not familiar with that song, no.
So that was a theme song for a show called Love Monkey about fictional music.
No way. Really?
Yeah. And it hit number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Love Monkey. I've never heard of that.
I also have not heard of it. It was like 8 episodes long, but it is something that we can talk about at a later point in time now.
I think we need to investigate.
Yeah, for sure.
Truth be told, I was not familiar with Teddy Geiger's career really at all until watching this movie and researching for this show. But since The Rock, her career's really kind of taken off in the music world. She's become kind of a sought-after songwriter and has just countless tracks with Shawn Mendes.
Yes.
Who is another artist who I know is huge. I know is absolutely huge, but I am not personally very familiar. But I do know this song. Just from existing in the world, I've heard the song There's Nothing Holding Me Back.
Oh yeah, I also know this song, but I don't know Sam Mendes very well.
Shawn Mendes.
Sam Mendes is the director,
Mendes directed
yes.
American
I know
Beauty.
Sam Mendes way more than I know Shawn Mendes. But I do still know this song. It was a massive hit.
Huge hit. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those songs you hear if you go anywhere in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's co-written by Teddy Geiger,
That's awesome.
along with dozens of other songs with Shawn Mendes and with other artists.
I have an example of a solo Teddy song from last year called I Belong Here. I really like how dreamy this is.
This is my favorite thing I've heard out of her so far.
Yeah, really cool.
Out of what we've played, that's a really cool sound.
That came out in 2023.
Yeah, so it seems like even though Teddy Geiger has gone on to be a pretty prolific songwriter, she wasn't involved with the songwriting in this, just providing vocals. Again, most of the songwriting was by Chad Fisher from Laszlo Bain, along with a few other folks.
Just a little bit more in-universe info before we move on to the songs from the soundtrack. In the movie, we get the title of the first A.D.D album. It is called Abandonment Issues. And we are also told that it is a top 10 album with a #1 single, though we do not know what the #1 single is. The song Coming Through in Stereo is playing during the montage where we get this information, so it's possible that's the #1 single.
Could be.
But
Yeah.
we don't know for sure.
Yeah, they don't spell it out for you.
And then I just want to point out that there's a fictional record label mentioned in this movie multiple times called Matchbook Records.
Represented by the perfectly skeezy Jason Sudeikis character.
Yeah, he's so gross and so stupid. I love it. It was great.
He's so good at that. I mean, I know everyone loves him now for Ted Lasso, but like he was so good at playing that
slimy, gross dude. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I love the line from him where he calls Jeff Garlin. He refers to Jeff Garlin's character as Norm from Cheers.
Yeah.
Because Norm from Cheers, George Wendt, is Jason's uncle in real life.
Yeah, a nice layered joke for sure. And then just to touch on some Vesuvius knowledge that we get throughout the movie's progression. Pompeii Nights is their new hot current album, and then they have a single by the same title, Pompeii Nights. We find out that everybody doubted them after their 5th album, but their 6th album came out and went platinum, followed by their 7th album called Devil's Nursery.
Yeah, they've had quite a career, and really an impressive one if you think about it in terms of like hair metal. They're survivors. They're Aerosmiths. They're Bon Jovis to an extent. They're not, you know, 2008. Most like Motley Crue they were on reality TV at that point.
Yeah, they weren't putting out like a lot of new banger albums that were going platinum.
Not that people were getting excited about. No, I think everybody was recording stuff, but
sure. It wasn't blowing up the charts like that.
No, sure wasn't. So yeah, Vesuvius did pretty well.
And the members of Vesuvius, you mentioned the drummer already.
The new drummer, the replacement drummer, yeah, Lonnie Ross.
Yes, the replacement drummer. The vocals in universe again. This is not actually Will Arnett singing the song, but he does play the vocalist in the movie. And then we have Bradley Cooper on guitar and Fred Armisen on bass, which is super fun because normally he's a drummer.
That's true. Yeah, in real life he's a drummer. It was a good little cast. You know, they did well in their probably 3 days of filming.
For sure. Those are perfect roles for people like that to come in and just play for a little bit and then they get to bounce.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and you get a bunch of those in this. I feel like that's almost every super famous person at the time has a fairly small role in this. Jane Lynch is in quite a bit. And then, of course, I mean, I would say now Emma Stone's probably more famous than any of them, but she was pretty new back then.
I think it's her second movie.
Oh, wow, really?
I think. And then just one more piece of in-universe information that I picked up on that I want to mention. We do have a third fictional band in this movie, though we do not know the name of the band. We only know that their initials are SW in the form of a tattoo on Christina Applegate's character's shoulder.
That's true. Yeah, she was in a band she was in, right?
Yeah, she was in a band. I believe she said that she was the singer of the band, but had to drop out when she got pregnant.
Right, yeah. So first up, this band A.D.D. This is a band where there's nothing technically wrong with the music, but I didn't get all that hooked. And honestly, like, this next section of our show is going to be hard because I have a hard time, I'm still not great at differentiating their songs even.
Yeah, okay. I can totally understand that.
They're a beige band, and whatever. Beige bands make it all the time. There's all kinds of bland music that I don't listen to that people love. But ultimately, I do think A.D.D's music is fairly bland. And in a sense, it works because it's a high school band. What doesn't work for me about it is that they blow up and become the next biggest thing. Although, even that, I'd buy it now.
Sure. Just so that way you can get a sample of some of these songs, let's take a quick listen to Tomorrow Never Comes. And again, this is Teddy Geiger singing the vocals for this song.
But it all goes up in flames. And then you try to break the girl, it's the same mistake over and over again. Say goodbye to one more day.
It hits a lot of the notes of the music for the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know what it reminds me of is, like, I don't know if you were ever privy to this world, but VH1 had, like, an early morning playlist that I used to check out sometimes before school.
Okay.
And it was all just stuff like that, like sunrise music. That's like a sunrise song. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna poke you. It's not gonna...
So I actually have a couple of different versions of this song. Chad Fisher also released his own version where he's doing the vocals.
So you walk outside to greet the world, but it all goes up in flames. And then you try to break the girl, it's the same mistake over and over again. Say goodbye to one more day.
Is the instrumentation a little different? Are the guitars like a little bit crunchier in that one?
I think they might be.
Yeah, I mean it's not like a 180 take on it. It sounded like they did play with the instrumentation a little bit to make it distinct from the movie version.
And finally, I have Teddy doing the song live in 2008, though the recording is from 2008, so it's really not the best.
Kind of rough, huh?
Apparently, this was a regular for her set when she was touring in 2008 after the movie came
really?
out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I recognize that distortion. That was recorded on a Razor or similar flip
For
phone.
sure.
Those were the days. I mean, that's cool that everybody got a little mileage out of it.
Yeah, it seems like that was the single from the movie, so maybe that was actually the song that went to number one in the universe of the film.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
And then this is the song that I mentioned earlier that's playing during the montage that could be the song that went to number one. It's called Coming Through in Stereo.
You say you're gonna go far.
And this is the one of any of the A.D.D songs that actually got my foot tapping a little bit.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's got a good tempo.
Turn up that radio song. Keep it on while it's coming in strong. We're coming through in stereo.
Like, this is a pretty peppy chorus, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not too bad.
Not bad. It's very clean. It's all like, I don't mean
It's
clean.
super clean.
I don't mean clean like wholesome, like, but I mean like literally like the sound is clean.
It's like you say on a lot of things, you know, it takes that rawness out of like what would be a normal recording.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's inherent in like writing for someone else, and I think especially if you're writing for a fictional someone else, it's really hard to carry that over. And any sort of like legitimate gut emotion. I don't want to be too hard on any of these songs because I think they serve their purpose well. And again, like for this being in universe, a high school band, I think it's dead on. I think it's really, really perfect.
These guys would totally be playing a high school prom.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Yep, I had no questions there. It was again only when the Sudeikis stuff started, and like what he said they were going to debut at number 9 on the charts, whatever that means. Sure, whatever. It's a movie, it's a comedy movie. You got to have big stakes, but I had to start suspending disbelief at that point.
So this is going to be a little bit different for me, Dustin. I'm going to try to do something that you do, which is try to express what the songs remind me of when I heard them for the first time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to play you an A.D.D song called Living for the First Time.
Uh-huh.
My fears clouding up my head for years drift away like paper boats into the sea. Kohne brothers ride, take me on a flight, living for the first.
Okay, so now I'm not saying that this song inspired that song or anything like that, but there's a particular kind of song that this reminds me of. So I just want to play you one song so that way you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
I'm ready for it. I hope it's what I think it's going to be.
The skin knees and the
Not at all what I thought it was going to be, but I 100% agree with you. Vertical Horizon. The definition of bland, the name even, Vertical Horizon.
Yeah, right?
What does it fucking mean? It's all of the things. It's not making a decision. It's just middle of the road. Yeah, totally Vertical Horizon music, yes.
Now, Dustin, there's been a couple of episodes where you've talked about things reminding you of 80s hair bands and 80s hair metal.
Yeah.
Holy shit, buddy. There is no clearer example from anything that we've watched so far that is that to a T than Vesuvius.
I mean, Vesuvius, they did a great job of hitting that style. And this is, once again, Chad Fisher, and actually it's deeper than that. He and his bandmates in Laszlo Bane have an alter ego band called, at the time they were called The Silent Rage. I think now they're just known as The Rage.
That's true, and they ended up redoing one of their songs called Dirty Old Man for this movie. Here is the original song with the original lyrics.
She's only 18 and she's hot to boot. I'm a silver fox in a satin suit. She's got a camel toe and I need to know if I can go. I'm such a dirty, dirty old man. I'm such a dirty, dirty, dirty old man. I'm such a dirty, dirty old man. I'm such a dirty, dirty, dirty old man.
And that song ended up becoming Pompeii Nights.
We're living in a kingdom of rock and roll. It's an empire of lust, ready to explode. We're gonna melt your minds with our guitar mind, like those Pompeii nights. Red hot smoking Pompeii nights. There ain't no reason to
It's like big time AC/DC vibes in this song.
I was going to say AC/DC is on their sleeve on this song in particular.
I really like this song, honestly. That chorus is so catchy.
Even down to like kind of sounding like Bon Scott, sounding like old AC/DC.
And I love the stutter on the P for Pompeii Nights. Oh, fuck.
You know, now that I think about it, we talked earlier about like, a lot of these hair metal bands were not super in at the time this movie was made. But you know what wasn't? I just realized this. Like, this is when like the Darkness and Steel Panther
Oh, yeah.
were all getting really hot. So the like parody hair metal thing was very in right at this time.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like it makes sense that people were dabbling in the style.
So this is a new singer that we have for Vesuvius. It is not Chad Fisher, and it is not Teddy Geiger. It is a man by the name of Keith England.
That's right.
On vocals.
A guy who's had a kind of storied career himself. Although I think one of the biggest things he's known for is the fact that he was with the Allman Brothers for quite a while in their later years as a backup singer, and then he would just like randomly sing lead on some songs like on tour. Like he was like a utility guy for the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, which is pretty rad. So Keith England put out an album in 2022. I listened to the whole thing, and it might be a little bit different sounding than you're expecting based on the way that he sounds in Pompeii Nights. Here's a little song called Me and Virginia from his 2022 album, Living Proof.
No one who loves me ever sends me a text. Just predatory vendors and collectors of debts. Oh Lord, forgive me, we're done it again. Me and Virginia, we just...
I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't expect like a steel guitar country song.
I kind of did. Well, once I knew the Allman Brothers thing.
Fair.
Prior to that, no, I didn't know. Honestly, all I knew watching the movie was that was definitely not Will Arnett.
I wish it was,
That
man.
was
If
all
he
I knew
sounded
for
like
sure.
that, it would be awesome.
I mean, the minute he opened his mouth to sing, I was like, whoa, wow, they're really, okay, they're going to dub him over with that. I mean, it does kind of pay off in universe when you get the lip syncing thing later.
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't know what I expected. But having read a little bit about this guy, Keith England, and knowing that he's like a session guy, I'm like, oh, I bet he's got some like blues rock chops, and there they are.
Well, there's a really bluesy song on the album. I don't have that one queued up, but I'm going to recommend everybody to check out this 2022 album, and we're going to play some more songs. This one's called Back to the Bottle.
Mama died. My woman left me. My son's a junkie and he just can't quit. He's down in Hollywood.
This one's like an Amy Winehouse song.
Yes, totally is.
Or at least what's left of it. I'm going back to the rock.
Amy Winehouse or Tom Jones, because they're closer than you thought.
Yeah.
The bottle again.
So yeah, that's a pretty cool song. It's got a nice little groove to it, nice relaxing groove.
Yeah, and I think actually Keith co-wrote that song. He didn't co-write every song on his album as a primarily a vocalist, but he did co-write that one.
And then one final song that I want to play off of Keith England's 2022 album Living Proof is a song called Misdemeanor. This one might be my new favorite song, just in life.
It's got those horns.
I'm addicted to horns.
Don't commit a misdemeanor, baby. Why you committing a felony? Don't commit a misdemeanor.
Yeah, this is a nice upbeat. It sounds like the E Street Band at first, but then like they have some like more like ska chops,
Oh yeah, totally.
like a little more flourishy. But like that beginning was total like Springsteen E Street Band, just like wall of horns and drums, and you're just like, yeah, fuck yeah, rock it out.
It's pretty cool, man. That album has 7 tracks on it, and each one sounds totally different from the next song. I really enjoyed the ride that album put me on.
That's awesome. I'm glad you dove in.
Yeah.
I only stopped by for a quick visit, and I was like, oh, this guy's good. Little did I know, I should have known. You went the extra mile and listened to the whole thing.
And then that leads us to our final Vesuvius song. It is an original made just for the film called Promised Land.
Yes.
Take my hand, walk to the promised land. You and I, we're gonna make a stand. Walk to the promised
Wanted to get something in there that highlighted the drums a little bit, since this is a movie about drummers.
You also got into the vocal bit there that caught my interest, because this song, the last song was very AC/DC. I think we could close the book and say that was AC/DC inspired. This one's a little more broad, like you can hear the Crew in there, you can hear Poison, all that stuff.
Yep.
If they were going for anything more than anything else, it was definitely the Axl Rose Guns N' Roses vibe.
Oh, yeah. I can totally see that.
That little vocal bit that came right at the end of that clip you played. But then also stuff like, I'm going to play just a bit of the intro to this song, Promised Land. He even says "Take Me Home" like Axl does in Paradise City.
Yeah.
But even more than Paradise City, that reminds me of course, the opening of "Sweet Child of Mine."
Oh, such a tasty lick.
Sure is. But because they don't play it on guitar, because it's actually a synthesizer bit, it sounds like it also reminds me of the beginning of this Devo song, "Gates of Steel."
Oh. Yeah, okay.
And, I'll never pass up a chance to get some more Devo in this show.
No. Why would we do that?
This song is fucking rad, by the way. I don't know if you know this one. Put it on your playlist to check out.
Yeah.
It's got a really long intro, so I'm not going to let it play out. But everybody should check that one out. If you don't know Gates of Steel by Devo, it's a rocker.
The rocker?
It rocks harder than many of the songs in the rocker, I'm sad to say. Not sad to say. Devo's special. If you tried your hardest and you didn't beat Devo, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're bad.
Yeah, there's still only one Devo.
Yes.
So we're coming to the conclusion of this show here, everyone, and you know what that means. I'm going to turn to Dustin and I'm going to ask him, Dustin, if either of these bands were real in our reality, producing music for us to enjoy, would you enjoy any of the music from them?
Oh, man. I feel like, okay, A.D.D is not for me. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's not a band I would seek out. And the reason I feel comfortable saying that is because in real life, the same guy wrote the music for Vesuvius, and they're totally for me. I would totally 100% check out more Vesuvius. I think they're like, it's some of the best hair metal parody music I've ever heard. It's great. They really hit on the style. I think even closer than those bands we mentioned earlier, The Darkness or Steel Panther, who, they're great in their own way too. But like these guys really like cracked the code and did exactly what those bands of yore were doing.
I have been singing Pompeii Nights just as I walk around my apartment this week. So I would agree with that.
And it sounds like you're with me on A.D.D as well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with A.D.D. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not the style of music that I normally listen to. It's a common occurrence for us to say, we didn't get enough of this fictional music to judge. But this one, we get a lot of A.D.D. So I'm pretty confident in saying, like, you know what? I listened to all of it. Mm-hmm. It's not my cup of tea. But boy, do I love those two Vesuvius songs. I would just eat up a full album of that.
Yeah. So much fun.
Well, I hope you had fun listening to us talk about the rocker today. If you did enjoy yourself, go ahead and leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, please do. And as always, check us out at fictionradiopod.com to find the episodes, find where to hear the episodes, and find links to our social media where we post some extra goodies. Drop us a line at fictionradiopod@gmail.com if you have a suggestion for a band in a movie you would like to hear in the future.
Until then, we'll see you next week on K-Flicks Fiction Radio.
Watching movies, jamming out. K-Flicks 198.4 Fiction Radio.